A call was received by the 999 system in Brigade Control to Ware Street, Bearsted at 08:17 hours on Tuesday, the 20th of January 1987. The call was to men trapped in a trench cave-in. Appliances were mobilised from S60 Maidstone Fire Station. In addition, a helicopter which was available to the brigade because of the heavy snow was scrambled from Brigade Training Centre. The helicopter was in attendance at the incident at the same time as the Maidstone fire appliances. The crews saw that the clay sides of the trench had collapsed. There were no signs of the man, who was reported to be in a 5 metres deep trench. Rapid search revealed that the casualty's head was located some 60 centimetres below the surface of the clay. Listening for sounds had pinpointed the man's position as he grunted and heaved to inflate his lungs. His head was 3 metres below ground level and slightly bowed and located in a small pocket of air. The crews were aware that before they had arrived, there had been a second collapse of the walls as colleagues of the trapped man had attempted to rescue him. However, the crews worked to uncover the casualty's head whilst carefully watching for further signs of collapse.
See, the land is stopping you that way. Yeah, there's a hole there, but...
The casualty's head was freed from the clay and a breathing apparatus face mask connected to a 10-metre length of airline tubing was placed on his face. This action provided the casualty with great reassurance and an improvement in his ability to breathe. In addition, the rescuers located one of his hands, which was held continuously throughout the rescue and provided both reassurance and comfort. Then began a slow and meticulous operation whereby the clay was removed from around the casualty's body. Great care had to be taken to remove sufficient clay from around the body, but without providing the conditions for a further collapse. Therefore, shovels, crowbars and screwdrivers were used to prise away the heavy clay. At the same time, makeshift shoring was improvised to minimise the effects of a possible further collapse. The sides of the top of the trench were cleared with debris and snow to prevent further collapse onto the casualty. At this time, the rescuers are talking with the casualty, calming him, reassuring him, creating a rapport which must be continued throughout the whole operation to keep his spirits up. Additional temporary shoring is placed in position to minimise again the effects of a possible further cave-in. The slow, meticulous operation continued with personnel labouring at clay clearing whilst they lay in prone and contorted positions. The bucket of an excavator was pushed against the sides of the wall again to prevent the possible collapse of the walls. Rescue lines were tied around each rescuer and held by a fireman at the top of the trench so that he could be hauled out should there be a further collapse of the clay walls. It had been necessary to increase the number of pumps attending the incident in order to gain sufficient lines to undertake all the tasks which had to be achieved. During this difficult operation, those 4 men in the picture removed some 1 ton of heavy, sticky clay from around the casualty's body. This was all achieved by hand using shovels, crowbars, screwdrivers and buckets. It was necessary to dig down around the casualty's body to a depth of about 1.5 metres, clearing a space of about 30 centimetres all round his body so that he could be released from the clinging clay. All during this operation, great care was taken with regard to the safety of the rescuers. The site engineer was consulted, and with his cooperation, further material was used to shore up the sides of the trench to prevent a further collapse. Rescuers can be seen laying prone on the surface of the clay, which had been lowered to the casualty's waist. And finally, working at full stretch, they remove the clay right down to his feet. The casualty's legs were bent at the knee, and one foot was between the rounds of the builder's ladder. This position meant that it was never possible to pull the casualty free from the top, and that the slow and meticulous digging operation was essential for a successful conclusion. Throughout the operation, it was necessary for the safety officers to maintain close observation of the sides and the top of the trench to immediately identify any signs of further possible collapse. It can be seen that the fireman rescuer is talking with the trapped man. He is reassuring him, providing comfort and maintaining his spirits, because in the latter stages of the rescue, it will be necessary for him to give whatever assistance he can to the fireman. The firemen are reaching deep down the hole that they have created to where the casualty's feet are trapped. Clay is being removed and the foot between the round of the ladder is freed. A conscious decision was made not to change the crews over at change of watch at 9 o'clock, even though the crews had completed 15 hours night duty. Good rapport had been created with the casualty, which needed not to be broken. Crews knew the conditions, the hazards, and their allocated tasks. A change of crews would have introduced an element of added hazard which needed to be avoided. The rescuer is reaching deep in the hole, straining to release the trapped man's legs. He is tired and he is cold, but because of the good rapport, his spirits are still high. Once freed, the casualty was strapped into a Paragard stretcher and hauled free from the trench. The casualty is a fortunate man. Although buried alive, his position of being head slightly bowed meant that a small pocket of air was available for him to breathe. The packing of the clay around his body was not so tight as to prevent movement of the chest and therefore breathing. The effective and professional action of the fire crews meant that he was released cold and with a broken arm, but very much alive. The casualty was then flown to hospital by helicopter with the local doctor who had attended the site. The snow that fell in Kent from 11th to the 14th of January 1987 was the heaviest for 40 years. It produced severe operational problems for the Kent Fire Brigade in terms of attending incidents in towns, let alone remote country areas. Many villages in Kent were completely cut off. Therefore, the Kent Fire Brigade arranged for a helicopter capability so as to be able to respond to incidents where road vehicles could not get through. Limited equipment could be carried because of weight restrictions, and therefore suitable equipment for each incident was selected before the helicopter was scrambled. There is no doubt that this helicopter capability ensured that the Kent Fire Brigade was able to fully discharge its firefighting and rescue responsibilities.